Welcome, everyone, to the Last Gasp Fantasy Sports Podcast, coming to you live from the Gibson Truck World studio here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill Advisors, located at Celebration Point here in Gainesville, Florida. I'm one of your co-hosts, TJ White, and next to me is my co-host, Brad Carmen. What's going on today, Brad?
Not much. How you doing this morning?
Oh, great, man. It's a beautiful day here in Florida. I mean, woke up, it was 50 degrees. I think you couldn't have asked for a bit. I almost slept with the windows open last night.
Beautiful weather out here.
I mean, if you were playing golf, if you're going out to watch the games outside, go outside to a local restaurant, come here at Celebration Point and enjoy the game outside, man. It's looking killer, and it's going to be just a great day for football, and I'm hoping you guys are excited to talk some fantasy, man. Wanted to give some thanks to our sponsors, Archer Electric Services Company, Piesano's Stone-Fired Pizza, Door-to-Door Transport, and Gibson Truck World. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube live every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. at Last Gas Fantasy Podcast. Come check us out. Make sure you hit the like and notify button to get those notifications when we go live every morning. And come and submit us questions, answer anything you need for fantasy. We got some big things coming up this week, Brad, with buys and injuries. I mean, it's going to be an exciting week, man.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. Last week was some great games going on. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But, yeah, this week's going to be some fun games as well.
Yeah, so it's good. You can also find us during the week to catch up on what you missed on the morning show on any of the social media platforms, also on any of the podcast platforms that you like to listen through, whether it be Apple or Spotify, Google, all of them. There's 39 different ones out there. We've gotten some great feedback and get notifications that you guys are watching, so we're loving it, and thank you for subscribing and listening to that stuff. You can also email us or during the middle of the week at lastgasfantasy@gmail.com or check out the website, lastgasfantasy.com, and send us your questions there. Check out the sponsorship cards. We'd love to have more sponsors on here. We got a few left open there. We've got great sponsors already, but if you're interested in being on the show or want to support us, give us a call, shoot us an email, and me and Brad will answer almost instantly. We're always on there answering.
And don't forget to go into their Facebook account and fill out the Piesano's Last Gap question of the week. This week, which tight end has the most yards and how many yards will they have? So it's easy. Just what tight end for what team and how many yards you're going to grab.
Yep. And so, as we talk about that, Brad, great segue into there. Last week's winner was Ronnie W. He chose the right team that was going to score the lowest points and had the points total. So congratulations, Ronnie. Swing by here either today after the show or catch up with us during the week, and we'll get you that $25 gift card to Piesano's. Special thanks to Piesano's for being a sponsor on the show and sponsoring the Last Gasp question of the week. Go check them out locally. They're a great restaurant, and we really do appreciate the continued support for our show, man. It's great.
This is the second week now that we get to do the show during a live NFL game.
Oh, no, it's great, man. It really is. It's last week's game came down to the wire a little bit with the Jets game in Atlanta, and the Jets, I picked the Jets, and they choked it away, but it seems like they're a fourth quarter team anyway. But, it was great to see them do well there and really come down to the end in London. And you got another one going on right now.
Yeah, Jacksonville just scored. The score is now 13-10 with about 40 seconds till halftime. So, maybe Jacksonville can pull this out. It's an interesting game. It's two Florida teams, Miami versus Jacksonville, going to play all the way out in London.
Yeah, no, and I think, it's interesting to see that they normally throw a lot of East Coast teams playing out there because it's a little bit of a later start, earlier start here, but then it's still later in the day there, kind of things like that. So it's interesting to see two teams that aren't really having a great start this year.
No.
And you had a great stat that you brought out this morning that I think is unreal for week 6 of a game.
Yeah, I think it was the opening drive of the Jacksonville Jaguars. It might have been their second drive, but they kicked their first field goal of the season. That's the first field goal for the Jags this season. So if you had their kicker, I'd be maybe benching them.
and we're going to be talking about that, Brad. The kickers are, a lot of talk in this fantasy league this week. We're going to be talking about some of that stuff and how good or bad they were last week. But I think it's going to be mostly bad. But to think that you're in week 6 of an NFL season and the Jacksonville Jaguars have kicked one field goal. That's one. That is an unreal stat, and that explains why they're 0-5 and 0-17 or 0-18 in the last 18 games, and they're. But this is a game they can win. This is a winnable game. Tua Tagovailoa's back in this game. He's playing well, but it's just it's like you said, it's 14-10. It's a close game, and 13-10. Yeah, so it's right there at halftime, and it's exciting to see. So just a reminder, Brad touched on it first and foremost was there that the question of this week is which tight end has the most yards and how many yards that is. It's that simple, folks. go onto our Facebook page, click the like, follow, and share button, enter a name like Zach Ertz or somebody like that, or the new guy, or whoever you want, Gronkowski, whoever you got. I don't care who you put in there, Njoku, whoever, and then throw in some yards. Brad, you got any guys you want to throw out there?
I was just thinking, since you talked about it a little bit, and before we get into the recap, what about the Zach Ertz trade?
Yeah, I mean, I think they gave up quite a bit for it, but I'm glad Jacksonville was in the talk for that. And
this makes Ertz another tight end that you can go to. He already was a good tight end over at Philadelphia, but now getting traded to Arizona.
Yep.
I mean, he's a starter now.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing is that there's a lot of weapons in Arizona, and with Kyler, the more options that he has to dump the ball off on he likes to do those bootlegs. He likes to get out of the pocket. He likes to keep it moving. And that's a lot of time your security blanket is that tight end or your dump back running back. And so if he's got that option now and he's added in there, you can't beat that.
And going to a 5-0 team to start out the season, I mean, how great is that for Zach?
Oh, that's a terrible thing to have, right? Well, let's start off with the recap of last week's games and go straight into the first one.
Well, I'm going to go to Monday night to start it out.
Yep.
The Ravens, Lamar Jackson overcame the largest deficit in his NFL career, 19 points, and set an NFL record for completion percentage of 86%. In both, he had over 400 passing yards and 40 attempts, which is another record.
Wow, if you don't have him in your top 5 QB talks right now, it's not even a question to me. He has absolutely deserved all the praise that he got and he's getting right now. So, you've got to, when credit's due, you've got to give it to him. And he has absolutely earned it and deserves it. And it's phenomenal to see what he's doing and how, and this is as much as him being good as the Colts blowing it too. I mean,
exactly.
that's the problem here is that the Colts had a huge lead and decided to go, we're going to walk the dog on this. And then he comes back and beats him in overtime.
Yeah, I've been on the Lamar Jackson bandwagon since the beginning of the season, thinking that, hey, this kid really can play. He's got the legs, he's got the arm. But I'll tell you the truth, halftime of that game, I almost turned it off. So I'm like, oh my goodness, they're getting their butts whipped. And they pull back, they come back, and Lamar shows what he can do, 442 passing yards.
No, it's unreal. And if you pick them up in your fantasy league and you've got him going there, you've done well. And just keep going, man, and he's going to keep continuing on.
The next game, the Buffalo Bills made another statement in storming Kansas City, steamrolling the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, winning 38-20. And Josh Allen is looking good.
I mean, yeah, that's a topic I'm going to touch on a little bit later and mention it out there. But that's what it really is. He has excelled to that next level. And I saw a thing the other day that was posted about him that he didn't have any college offers out of high school. He went to a JUCO for a couple years, and then went to Wyoming, and he had to recruit a school for that. And Wyoming put him on, and now look at him. He's just tearing up the NFL. So that goes to show you, always chase your dream, always go after it. If you feel like you're confident and you feel like you can do it, man. It's just a positive story.
Dallas is just much better than everyone else in the NFC East. I'm beating the Giants 44-20.
Yeah.
Next one, Kyler Murray. And undefeated Cardinals. We just talked about that. Zach Ertz going over there now, but the defense led franchise to a 5-0 start. It's the first time since 1974. They beat San Francisco 17-10.
Yeah, and I'm going to touch back a little bit on that Dallas Giants game. I feel like I've got a curse this year. So y'all, I'm sorry for all you listening out there that think that fantasy and you believe in me sometimes, but I started Daniel Jones last week after telling all you guys to start Daniel Jones, and then he gets concussed in the first quarter. Like, tell me that's not just great luck for fantasy. I made a comment the other day that fantasy is not about being good; it's about being lucky.
Yes.
And I'm not lucky right now. And so when you think about it, it's crazy to think that you lose Saquon Barkley, you lose Daniel Jones, you lose Darius Slayton, you lose Sterling Shepard, you lose all of your starters in that game, and I mean, you were on a positive trend, and then you just can't get out of the bucket, man. And I know as a Dallas, they came in and handled business and did their job and put up 44, and they look strong. They look just as strong and look like a team to be reckoned with. But you just can't feel that the Giants can't get the car started. So it's tough.
I mean, getting all those injuries though, it's hard to be successful. I mean, you've got your best players out.
Yeah. So
This next stat, it blows my mind too. The Browns scored 42 points, had 532 yards, 0 turnovers, and they lose.
I was watching that game, Brad, and I looked at it and I said, "There's no way they can keep scoring." It kind of looked like, and it's a sore subject. The Gators and LSU game yesterday, where there was nobody able to stop a paper bag that was blowing down the street.
Defense.
And it looked just like that game in my mind.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, it was a score, and it was the first one and the last one had the ball. And when I thought that they missed the extra point, when the Chargers missed the extra kick to go down 41-42, I was like, oh, looks like it's over. We got a chance. They did a great job by Baker, and looking at him. And next thing you know, they go down and score and win the game. I was like, this, and the last play of the game, and I said, this is why you watch these games for fantasy reasons only, and not because you're dedicated to the team. Because I've got some friends that are Cleveland fans, and they are absolutely gut-wrenched.
Well, this makes the Browns the first team in NFL history, including the playoffs, to lose when either scoring 40 points in 0 turnovers or 40 points and 500 yards in 0 turnovers.
Well, and I was talking to that friend of mine this week, and you look at Baker's stats.
Yeah.
They're, I think, 3-2. He's got 1,200 yards passing. He's got 4 TDs and 2 interceptions. They are the number 1 running offense in the league.
Yeah.
They run over 200 yards a game, and that goes into a guy that's hurt this week. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays into with that 2-back system. And so it's going to be interesting to move forward there, and I'm excited about that. And we'll see what goes on from there.
Next one's another bizarre story. Vegas goes down 20-9 after starting the season so hot. They lose to the Bears 20-9. The next day, John Gruden resigns over emails.
Yeah. No, it was a feel-good story to start the season with Vegas, and I think this will show you the leadership in that locker room, and I think they've got some good leadership with some of the players there, with some of the older veterans. It's going to take a lot for them to pick up the season and get back on track. But the thing is they're not a team that's 0-5 or 4-1 and in the dumps. They're a team that's in the contention in that division. And so when you're in contention, you really have the ability to put these differences aside and pick up your team and play for each other. And I think the bigger surprise for me is, me, Brad, I don't talk about the negative things with the coaches and the emails and that stuff. I just think it's enough. It's beat to a dead horse in other places. So the Bears winning again.
Yeah.
Makes the Bears 3-2 now.
Yeah.
And the Bears are with all of the troubles they've had with quarterbacks and with coaches, Nagy not coaching well and throwing up any points and being offensive mind and doing this, they're 1 game out of first place in that division.
And they had the worst offensive production in 1 game that we've ever seen.
Yeah. And so that's more of a story to me, is that the Bears are in contention in a division that I thought was going to be a runaway, with a team that defense is the real deal.
Yes.
And if you're sleeping on the Bears defense, you're sleeping on the wrong defense. I'm telling you that. They're not in hibernation right now. I'll promise you that.
I think it was week 2. That's one of the comments I said. If you got this Bears defense, it doesn't matter who's quarterback. But they are starting to play better offense as well.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh finally put together a solid, balanced offense attack. I mean, Harris is coming along very well. Pittsburgh pulls a win over Denver, 27-19.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, is Pittsburgh needed a win. They needed to pick me up. They were licking their wounds a little bit after a few big losses. And you're right, they get a nice win there.
And I don't know what's more incredible: Tom Brady still playing such a ridiculous high level at the age of 44, or the fact that he's still accomplishing stuff that he's never done in 22 years. Tom Terrific has his first 400-yard, 5-touchdown game of his career, with Tampa beating Miami 45-17.
I mean, they don't call him the GOAT for nothing, Brad.
I mean,
it's incredible at what he's doing at that age, and like you said, to win 45-17, and that game was never really in question.
No,
I mean, it was a little close early in the game, and it was a little bit here and there, and Miami's got a lot to work on, and they're still working to get better. But it was still the Tom Brady show, Antonio Brown show. I mean, it was incredible what they did.
Another player that's now 15 years running with the Green Bay Packers is Mason Crosby. I know you're going to talk about the kickers a little bit, but my little line here is if you try and try and try again, eventually you'll make one and you'll win the game.
I mean, that's the thing about that game too, is that you have Cincinnati, who has won on last 2 field goals with Evan McPherson, and now Evan goes and misses 2 or 3, I think, in that game. Whatever it was 2 or 3 in that game. and it gives Crosby the chance to miss 2 or 3, and then finally hits it on the last one. It's like
in overtime to win the game.
It's just it makes you wonder what Cincinnati has to do to win games.
And again, you're going to touch on this a little bit, but so far this season, we've had 12 missed field goals, 12 missed extra points in week 5.
Yeah. That was in 1 week.
Yeah.
That was in 1 week.
This week.
Not even
week.
including the Monday night game.
Correct.
Which had more missed field goals and hurt players. So you think about that, that's wild. And it's unreal to think that those were the issues there and some of that stuff. So the last thing I want to talk about is we mentioned this a second ago. You said Jacksonville is the 3rd team in history to go for 20 straight losses. I thought it was 78. It's at 20 now.
It's at 20 straight losses, 20 straight games.
I really hope they end that curse today. They need something positive in that organization. They need something there. So if you're a local Jacksonville fan looking at it, it's great. Take a look at it and let's hope for Jacksonville. And I know we got some Miami fans here too. So you want Miami and Jacksonville right now. So it's great. I don't think Miami has a chance in that division, which is the problem. The Bills I think are going to walk away with that. I think they can be a 500 club. And maybe go. I don't even think they're in the wild card. So it's hard when you have the Bills playing that well, and you've got to be a 500 club, and you've got divisions like Cleveland and Baltimore both playing well on that side, and so it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out.
Well, we do have a couple questions coming up on the Facebook message board. Tyreek Hill, list is questionable still. Any last minute updates?
I didn't see anything on the injury report early this morning. I've keeping an eye out on it. I think he's going to play. I think he's one of those guys that wants to be on the field every day. If you've seen him compete, he reminds me of a mature, seasoned Tony. He's got that effort. He's got that play. A Ruggs out in Las Vegas. Those guys want the ball and they want to play and they want to do something for their team. And I don't think it's an ego thing. I think it's just that's the culture they kind of raised with. So I think he'll play with any kind of little nagging injury.
Yeah, and what I've seen, he is questionable. He did have limited practice this week, but if you have limited practice, you're playing on Sunday generally.
And as we go, the surprise of the weeks. I'll start off with the surprise of the weeks for me, and what really is the big surprise for me was the Chiefs-Bills game. It was tabbed as the game of the week, Brad. It was tabbed as this is going to be what is the cream of the crop of that side. And to watch that game, it was never a question.
Yeah.
The Bills came in, they handled their business, and then you go into half, or it was either right after half or right before half, they have an hour and a half delay because of lightning, and they're sitting in a stuffy room, they're sitting in a bad locker room. They could have packed up lunches and gone back home and let the Chiefs come out and do that. And they come out there, they handle the second half, and it ends the way it ended, and it shows you that the Bills are the real deal.
Yes. As much as we've talked about the rookie quarterbacks, the quarterbacks that have 2 and 3 and 4 years underneath their belts are really performing right now.
They're the next generation. I mean, they really are stepping up. The Mahomes, the Allens, those guys. I mean, it's really looking good.
Herbert.
Herbert. Allen had 315, 3 TDs, and he had 1 rushing TD for 35 fantasy points.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. I mean, against that team is not that Kansas City's defense is a little suspect, but it's still putting it up.
Yeah, and you predicted a low-scoring game. I predicted a shootout, and I think Buffalo did my side, and Kansas City did your side. So.
Yeah, right. One of them did the wrong thing, one of them did the right thing. Talking about Mahomes and Kansas City on that side, he had 2 INTs that game.
Yes, he did.
He had some bad decisions there. I think one was returned for a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was helped off the field early in that game.
Yeah.
He's questionable with an ankle injury. We didn't see a lot on the injury report on him. They're keeping it kind of silent. Make sure you follow up on his backup there. We'll talk about him in a little bit. And then, the one thing that else has surprised me, and I've been talking about this guy for 2 weeks, and you guys, some people were saying, I don't see it. He's, you're a Florida homer, which I am. I'm going to admit that, so don't feel bad. I'm going to say that I am all the time But 28 points by PPR points. He had 10 catches for 189 yards for Kadarius Toney. And then he, of course, gets ejected for fighting. But, that's the life you live, I guess, as a wide receiver in New York.
Yeah, and they say, play him this week because he's going to have another good one. So,
So
my surprise, and it shouldn't be, but it's the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray. They've started out 5-0. They beat San Francisco this week. Kyler went 22 for 31, 239 yards and a touchdown. They're just looking, consistently good. And when they go out and play, they win.
Yeah, no, it really is, and you just touched on it a minute ago. They're 5-0, and they pick up a solid tight end with Zach Ertz.
Yes.
So San Francisco, even with Garoppolo out and having Trey Lance in there, you still got to win the games. You still got to play well, and you still got to compete. And I think it's a surprise for everybody that they're still the only undefeated team in the league.
I got you. Now, again, on the Facebook message board, can I trust Cole Beasley in a standard 3-receiver league? Plays Lions rookies St. Brown, or do I play the Lions rookie St. Brown?
I mean, what do you think?
I'm sticking with the veteran.
Yeah, no, Cole Beasley's been solid. I mean, he's been off for a couple weeks, right? I mean, he hasn't gotten a touchdown, is what I'm saying. Right. That's the Bills guy, right? He's a slot guy for the Bills. You got Stephon Diggs there, who's been good. You've got coming out of nowhere, Knox, the tight end in Buffalo, who's really stepped up and done a great job there. And he's been the go-to guy in the end zone and the red zone. And so it's definitely I see production this week out of him. So I go Cole over St. Brown, the rookie in Detroit. First we want to give a special thanks to our sponsors, Archer Electric Services Company. They're bringing you over 30 years of leadership and experience in both commercial and residential electric needs in the Gainesville and surrounding communities. Go check them out on our website, lastgasfantasy.com. And click and like them. Go see what they need. I've got some electrical work I'm going to call them up for. It's going to be great to have them come over and do some work for us. Also, Piesano Stone-Fired Pizza. Whether you are looking for a quick lunch or dinner destination to meet up with friends and family, Piesano's is your place. Celebrate life's most memorable moments with the delicious dishes, whether in our dining room or yours. And also Gibson Truck World for sponsoring our studio here. Spurrier Gridiron Grill and Visors for having us at this location. And also We Be Marketing for doing the back end stuff with Evan, our producer here, that does a great job. So thank you, everybody that does a great job with that. Brad, there's two of the biggest surprise performance here to me where this week were quarterbacks. And I'm going to go, it's easy to pick the best players every week to go, oh, this guy scored the most points, and to go, yeah, this makes it easy for me. But when they do what they're supposed to do, that's why you pick them. Exactly. Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson. You touched on Lamar Jackson a little earlier. He had 42.1, unreal comeback Monday night, and then you touched on Justin Herbert with the Cleveland Browns game and that game going back and forth. Those guys can lay eggs and they could be bad, but no, they continue to excel and do things that they were picked to do. And both of them with Tom Brady are in the MVP hunt, along with Derrick Henry and a couple of running backs from the Cleveland Browns. And so to think about that, you have a lot of right now MVP in going into week 6 that are setting themselves apart from other players.
We're on the same page with this because my player was Lamar Jackson as well. And you're right, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. These quarterbacks are just performing at a high level right now. Right now, I think that's your 3 MVP choices. Yep. And it depends what happens throughout the rest of the year. But, I mean, again, Lamar Jackson throws for 442 yards, 4 touchdowns, coming back trailing by 19 points. Yep. Again, I was about to turn off the TV, and then he started to perform, and it's a great game he ended up having.
Yeah, no, it really is, and it's just it's great to see that. The disappointments this week, Brad, and it's hard because when you look at things and you go, what was the most disappointing factor? And you don't ever want to point out a kicker. I don't ever want to go, the reason they lost this game is because they didn't pay that kicker didn't kick very well. But when you miss 12 extra points and 12 field goals in a week, and then there were 2 more on Monday night with Blankenship, who's now hurt, by the way, so check your injury reports, take a look on there. Blankenship's out for Indy, so he missed 2 of 4 that would have put Indy out of reach for that game. And you go on to see that those guys can affect your fantasy team and can affect your points when they miss field goals. If you looked at the totals from 1 to 10, there's only 9 points that separate the first from the 10th player in your kickers leagues. But that also don't count, the guys below that are ones that have missed extra field goals and extra points that could have put them up there. Right. And they don't ever show up that, I lost this game by 15 points or I lost this game by 5 points because the kicker didn't hit a 50-yard field goal or a 30-yard field goal twice in a game. And these are the differences in a fantasy league about consistency and about getting good kickers.
Yeah. And if you look at the Green Bay game, they missed 4 field goals in that game were missed. prior to Crosby making the game-winning field goal in overtime. They didn't have to go in overtime if one of them would have made their field goals.
Well, yeah, think about that. If they were outside of 40, most of them, at 30, 40, so 33, 44, 50s 5, and you had 4. So that's a minimum of 12 to 15 points divided by both teams.
Right.
You know, so that's 7 to 8 points. I lost last week by 2 points on one of my leagues. And that's a kick.
Yeah, I had Crosby. I was playing him. I did pull out the win, so I'm very fortunate. But yes, and probably the overtime kick maybe is why I won. But
and the last thing I'm going to touch on that, Brad, before we go to the next part of this is that who number 1 kicker last year, Young Ho Koo.
Oh yeah,
he's 20th this year. So from year to year, from kick to kick, these guys are just it's a tough league, and they moved the kicking of the field goal back a few years back for the extra point, and it's definitely made it interesting.
It has, but years coming to this league, we didn't have this many missed field goals in extra points, but now this year we are having them for some reason.
Yeah. Who was your biggest highlight? Who was your bigger disappointment for the week?
Well, my biggest disappointment is the Las Vegas Raiders. Not only John Gruden, but the team, because the team came out so hot. I was so much on Carr's bandwagon to begin the season, and now he's just totally dropped off. The whole team's dropped off. I'm hoping they can get this back up and going now with the new head coach and starting fresh this week. But yeah, they were my biggest disappointment last week.
No, it really is, and that's just a disappointment. And you hope that they can pick that game up and go back at it. So let's see what happens there. The game that's live right now, Miami-Jacksonville, just started up in the third quarter. It's still 13-10, but looks like Jacksonville's driving. So we'll see what happens there. So it's a pretty interesting thing, and we'll see what's going on there. We wanted to right before we go into break, I wanted to bring up a separate topic here. It's the first time we've had bye weeks going into week 6, so I wanted to talk about who's on bye weeks and get that going. The Atlanta Falcons are on a bye week. The New York Jets are on a bye week. The 49ers, San Francisco 49ers are on a bye week, and the New Orleans Saints are on a bye week. And Brad, just give me a quick rundown on how fantasy owners should handle IRs, bench players, questionable players, and how we go into bye weeks, and give them some tips that can help them pick up players right now or not.
Yeah, it's time to start playing that waiver wire game. Yeah. I mean, you've got to have that spot on your roster that this guy's dispendable. Yeah. I can cut him and go pick him up later and stuff like that. And my suggestion, one of the things is always make that your flex spot if you can, because you have more options. You have your wide receiver / running back / tight end or whatever your flex spot is on your league. So if you can move those guys that are in your flex up to those wide receiver or those running back spots in these weeks and have an opportunity to open up your flex spot, that's the way I usually play it. The other key is with the COVID. If a guy is listed under COVID, most leagues are letting you put him under IR. Right. So you can still put him in an IR and open up a roster spot. Yep. So if you have someone listed in COVID in your league and he's sitting on your active roster, move him down to IR.
Well, and that kind of bit me earlier this week, and like you said, it's a simple move, but you have to pay attention.
Correct.
I switched Antonio Brown in on Thursday night right before the game started. I found out that Williams from Chicago got COVID protocol, so I switched him from flex and into there. What I should have done is, like you said, is switch Brown into the flex position. Into a receiver position who's questionable and brought it down, or the flex running back position where I have Joe Mixon who is questionable and put him down there. So it gives me the option. Like I have Chuba Hubbard on my bench, but I can't switch him out now because it's not that position. So and with Christian McCaffrey out for IR for the next 3 weeks, it's one of those things. That's a great point you made, where you're looking at switching guys in their particular position and maybe moving them around so you have the flexibility, even looking at times. Right. You didn't mention times there, but if a guy's playing at 1 o'clock and you have guys playing at 4:25, put the 4:25 in that flex position. Correct. So you have the potential to move him in and out if you read something that happens an hour before game time, an hour before start time.
Well, that's the big thing about the London games are starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. The Thursday games, those guys you can't leave in that flex spot. You've got to go ahead and put them in a wide receiver or running back position and leave that flex spot open in case you have to go out and chase somebody.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So just remember, there's a lot of waiver wire out there. I'm going to be talking about waiver wire when we come back from break here, and talking about some injury reports. And so make sure you tune back in. We want to say thank you to everybody that's listening, and we'll catch you back here after the break.
Gibson Truck World's expert team of sales and service staff will show you why we have been the pioneer of used trucks since 1995. With our 1-year bumper-to-bumper warranty valid across the entire United States, our exclusive 15-day exchange policy, and our $1,000 best price guarantee, it's easy to see why we're the #1 used truck dealership in all of Florida. Please call, visit, or explore our website today to see for yourself why we are the king of trucks.
Looking for more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Les Macarons, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
Visors Tailgate and Rooftop Bar, located on top of Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point, is now open Thursday through Saturday. Visors Covered Open Air Bar is the perfect place to gather after work or meet up with friends. You'll love the handcrafted cocktails and elevated shareables available every Thursday through Saturday. Visors Tailgate and Rooftop Bar is perfect for fans of great food, great drinks, and great weather. Visors not required. High spirits are highly encouraged. Visit spurriers.com/visors.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Last Gasp Fantasy Podcast, coming to you live from the Gibson Truck World studio here at Celebration Point at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visors here in Gainesville, Florida. I want to say a special thanks to Gibson Truck World for being our studio sponsor, Archer Electric Services Company, Piesano Stonefire Pizza, and Weeby Marketing for their continued support of the podcast and program here that we do live every Sunday morning, the sports show. If you're interested in doing that, come check us out at lastgasfantasy.com or email us at lastgasfantasy@gmail.com, and we'll add you on here. We love it. The sponsors love it. They've had great support, and everybody that's listening just goes and checks them out, and it's been a wonderful relationship for us so far, Brad.
Yeah. We got a couple questions on the Facebook message board, so let's start with this one. What are the pros and cons of NFL games in London? I want to start with the cons because those are so easy. The time, the travel, the lack of practice. But these are professionals. You know, a lot of them have to play on Thursday nights, so they've got the same disadvantage on a Thursday night that a team playing early Sunday morning does out in London.
Yeah, so the pros for me are you want national reach. You want people to be invested not just here in the United States, and you just like soccer. You know, European soccer is huge. It's just like our football. But have you seen the uptick in USA soccer and the players and the player development for USA? It's the same way that I think football should be in other parts of the country, you know, in other parts of the world, is that, you know, we're newer in the football realm versus soccer that's been there forever. But I believe that it's a positive step, and the viewership in London and that media outlets are just phenomenal.
One of the cool things I like seeing the games in London is when you look at the stadium and you look at the stands and the fans, they're not wearing only the jerseys of the teams playing there. They're wearing all the jerseys of all the teams, who their fan is in the NFL.
Yeah, it's not just the one team. It's like they get a chance to see it, you know. And the thing is, too, is I think the NFL, one of the cons that I think they can do is they can manage the time of the games versus if you play in London, you play the following Monday night game.
Correct.
That would be better. Like you make sure that, or if you played a Thursday, then you play the following Monday in London to give yourself a recoup time so that you're giving them an extra couple days to get over that jet lag, to reset their batteries, to figure that out. I don't ever think they should play a Thursday night and then that following Sunday or something like that.
Well, with this being done, do you think we ever going to have a team from London or overseas play in the NFL?
No.
Okay, because
No,
that team is
yeah.
at a humongous disadvantage in traveling and trying to play.
Well, I mean, you don't see MLS teams going over to Europe and playing in the EPL. You don't see teams like Seattle playing Sounders going all the way over there to do that. So there's no feasible possibility that I would expect the Chiefs, from over there traveling all the way to London or Wembley or something like that, or Chelsea to play games against NFL talent over there, and then especially having them come back. That's an 8-hour trip, 8 hours back. Time differences, you're losing a day right there. So I just don't ever see them combining the team.
Yeah, it's one thing going over there and doing it one time for the season, but having to do it 8 to 9 times for a season would be, for them to come over here and play the away games, and I think it would just be too much for a team.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it where if you could work it in where you did, they came over for a 4-game stint, but that's one team coming in playing 4 different teams at one time. You're going to have 4 separate teams going over there. So they could work it that way where you do 4-4 or 6-3, 17 games, whatever the match works out to. But, that's really the way I could see it ever working out. We'll move into injury reports, Brad. I'm going to let you kick it off with injury reports here and let everybody know what's going on, who's in, who's out, and who's got some decisions to make.
Well, there's some big ones. Chris Carson got put on the IR, so he's going to be out for a minimum of 3 weeks. Got to go find someone to replace him. Nick Chubb, he's out. Now, it's questionable. Are they going to go to a 2-headed horseman running back and bring up a running back for them, or are they going to go with Hunt and let him control the game?
Yeah.
McCaffrey's still out. I think he was just put on IR too, so he's out for at least 3 more weeks.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's Chuba Hubbard, who's picked him up, who people thought was just going to be a 1 or 2 game thing, and he's come through. He's averaged 10 or 12 points a week. He hasn't had a monster week, but he's filled in a nice gap for a number 1 pick in the draft.
Yep. Curtis Samuel out. Saquon Barkley out. Kenny Galladay,
Yep.
out.
Yeah, so those guys are all out. We mentioned those guys from last week that Saquon has been hit or miss this year with being injured. It's tough when he's been out as a keeper, comes back and has a strong PPR week 2 weeks ago, and just put up like 36 was in his PPR league points, and then now he goes out and hurt, and it's just you can't feel bad for the guy. You got to feel for him and just really feel that he's just gonna get it picked up together.
And we talked about Daniel Jones. They say he's going to play, but he's coming off a concussion. So if he does play, is he a play?
Yeah, and that's the question. We talked a little bit about Damian Williams out with COVID, Brad.
Yep.
He was the backup for David Montgomery up in Chicago. We'll tell you about his backup. His backup is Khalil Herbert. So if that's somebody you need right now, if you're thinking about it and you're looking at waiver wires, you're looking at, you had Cordarrelle Patterson on Atlanta who's on a bye this week. Make sure you look up this name, Khalil Herbert. He's the running back out of Chicago. He potentially could be a nice fill-in spot. I'm not saying he's going to go off and get 20 points for you, but he's going to be the lead running back there this week, and he's going to try to pick up points. So if you can get percentages and touches in play, that's who you want.
Yeah. I went and did a reach because of the Cleveland, because of Nick Chubb. And I picked up Demetric Felton.
Okay.
And one of the reasons I did is because he's a wide receiver / running back.
Right.
So if I have to fill in on my bye week, this guy can go almost anywhere, sort of like we were talking about with the flex players. Now, is he going to be any value? It all depends on if he ends up playing as a dual-headed role in the running back game or not.
No, it really is. It's a great thing. They've split a lot of carries there in Cleveland, and so it's good to see that. We received a Facebook question. He has a flash. Someone's calling in and asking for a flex spot. Do they start Adam Thielen versus Carolina, Kadarius Toney versus the Rams? Which one would you put in the flex spot there?
I'm going with Toney. Tony's shown himself lately. He's a strong receiver. I'm going with Toney.
Well, and that's what's weird about this, Brad. Because if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I'd go with Thielen. I would have said Thielen's the hand down pick. Minnesota's doing well, but after losing last week, they lost 19-17 to the Lions, I think is what it was. They've kind of hit a low spot. I mean, I was high on Cousins earlier in the year, and they've kind of just come off as a little bit, hit or miss, and they just really haven't picked it up. So, and Tony's going to get 13 targets. He's going to get at least probably 13 targets this week, and they're going to try to, as long as he stays healthy, I think he'll get a touchdown this week, and I think he's gonna be on there. And so I'm buy high on Tony right now. So keep that going, and that's great right there.
Another one, I think everyone already knows this, but Russell Wilson is also out.
Yep. And so that's the thing too. You have MCM out, which is Christian McCaffrey. He was put on IR, which is a big thing to note in your leagues. Is that when they're put on IR, that's 3 weeks. So minimum 3 weeks. They're not going to come back until week 9. So pay attention to that. And that touches back into what me and Brad were talking about a little bit ago. Is you can't fall in love with players on your bench, and you can't fall in love with bad players. And I'm going to touch the heart of 2 players that I've always had trouble getting rid of right now is Allen Robinson and Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, they're both moved to that spot on your roster that they are expendable. You can interchange them.
And the reason I bring this up, and this is something that as fantasy owners you got to realize that get somebody that's producing instead of taking a risk on somebody that's just sitting there on your bench. For example, OBJ has 14 points this year. He's 96 in the world in the rankings for wide receivers, and Allen Robinson is 68 at 7 points a game. You got guys like Christian Kirk, Patrick from Denver, Galloway from New Orleans, Green from Arizona, Moore from Arizona. You got Quez Watkins back up for wide receivers in Pittsburgh that are consistently ranked halfway higher. So they're between 32 and 36 on the rankings right now in wide receivers. So go look at the rankings. Go look at the points per week. Go look at these things, and don't have people on your bench that are eating up spots, especially during bye weeks right now, when you have receivers on the bench, on the waivers that you can pick up and start right away, Brad.
Yes.
That are doubling the points.
No, I agree with you. You've got to watch that waiver wire. You can't fall in love with a player so much that you just won't go get rid of him when you're not performing.
Even if he's on your team.
Right.
Even if he's a Dallas guy. If he was a Dallas guy, you've got to drop him, man.
But I'm playing all my Dallas guys.
I mean, look at the tight end for Dallas. You thought it was going to be the other guy, and it's Schultz coming out. I mean, you thought it was going to be Jarwin out of Florida State, but now it's Schultz that's coming out of nowhere. A couple other people that are out for them right now is Devontae Parker, and if you had him in your starting lineup, I'm sorry. Just let us know. He hurt his shoulder, so you're screwed because he's already playing in the game, and you can't change him right now. So Blankenship hurt his hip after missing 2 field goals last week. He's trying to get his pride back, so check him out. Sammy Watkins is out for Baltimore. He's got a hip problem, so check that out. He's hurt. He's not going to be playing. We're going to have a Bateman. Rashad Bateman is a backup for him out of a wide receiver out of Baltimore, so look into that if you need a fill-in for Sammy Watkins. Terry McLaurin is questionable. He's got a groin issue, Brad, so that's another guy that they need to watch out for. Also, we just talked about Pittsburgh. Juju Schuster-Smith's out.
Yep, he's gone.
And their backup receivers were Claypool is in there, and I just talked about it. Quez Watkins, another backup there at Pittsburgh. They like to throw the ball in those short passes, and Ben Roethlisberger still looks like a grumpy old man out there, but got a win last week.
Yeah, he can throw for 5 yards.
Also, keep an eye on the Kansas City running back question. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still hurt. I don't see that he gets on the field a lot today. I could be wrong, Brad. What's your take on that?
If he does play, he's a risky play, I think. So I would kind of sit him on my bench and see what happens next week.
Yeah. We're talking about the waiver wire here, and still going to continue with that, is that 4 players, and we've named a couple of them already, but the Njoku out of Cleveland had a monster week last weekend, and he was kind of a 50-50 keep on most rosters. So if you need a fill-in for a tight end that you have out, he was available on 36% of the leagues, so check him out. The Njoku Cleveland tight end. Also, the New England tight end, Hunter Henry, has been a security blanket for Mac Jones all year. He's stealing late drive TDs. Keep an eye on him. He's a great pickup and somebody you can get on there. Also, we talked about Khalil Herbert, the backup from Chicago.
I was just reading about him. It's a sneaky pick right now.
Yeah, and so he was open, I think, I looked yesterday morning, he was open on like 12. He was only taken in like 7% of the leagues or something like Brad. So check him out. He's going to get the touches and he's going to play. Brad mentioned it earlier with the running backs out, Chris Carson in Seattle. The backup there is Alex Collins. So look at that name. Check out that name. These are running back, wide receiver positions that you need to fill. I want to give a shout out to my uncle. He tried trading me, Alex. He tried trading for Chris Carson and his quarterback, Sam Darnold, for Daniel Jones and Joe Mixon the day before Chris Carson was issued for IR.
I say, aren't all those people hurt?
Yeah, he tried trading me 2 IR players for 2 players that are starting in the top 10 in the league right now. Hey, way to go, Dave. But anyway, yeah, it's just, that's the thing too, is trades. You could accept a trade and the next day those guys get down. So it's part of the fun and fantasy on this, man. It really is.
Another sneaky sleeper pick right now is, again, in Chicago, would be Darnell Mooney, the wide receiver out there.
Yeah.
He's getting over 20% of the targets.
Yep. And since we're still talking about waiver wires, a couple guys to pick up and talk about. Don't forget about Indianapolis Colts defense is doing pretty well. They got picked up pretty good. Brandon McManus, Denver's kicker, after how bad some of the kickers were last week. Make sure you check out those. He's a number 1 pickup this week. We've also got Miko Hardiman out of Kansas City. Make sure you take a look at him. He's out there. We talked about Rashad Bateman. And then we also have Devontae Booker.
I was about to say Booker.
Yep.
Booker's a must start right now with Barkley being out.
Yeah, so keep an eye on those guys. They're out there. They're doing well, and they're having a great time. So we want to say special thanks to Archer Electric Services Company. They are bringing you over 30 years of leadership and experience in both commercial and residential electric needs in Gainesville and surrounding communities. Also, Piesano's Stone-Fired Pizza, where you're looking for a quick lunch or dinner destination to meet up with your friends and family. Check out Piesano's is your place. Celebrate life's most memorable moments with delicious dishes, whether in your dining room or ours. Also, come and check us out at lastgasfantasy.com, and we'll have any info you need and have them all located on there where you can find their contact information. Brad, now it's the funnest part of the week, in my opinion, sometimes. It's, you get fun, you talk about the pickups, you talk about the waiver wire, you talk about who did good, who's going to do good, and now we talk about who's going to win the games. This is one of the more fun parts about it, And we already know who won the Tampa Philly game. We've got the Miami Jacksonville game on. Right now, Jacksonville has the lead and the ball, and they're moving again. They're up 17-13 late into the third quarter, and it's looking good for Jacksonville right now. But they're one of those teams that could lose it on the last play. We go to the next game. We got Green Bay at Chicago. Green Bay is 4.5. Does Chicago have a chance in this game?
Chicago's surprising people right now. Their defense is really performing. I'm still going to pick Green Bay on this one.
I like Green Bay there, but I think Chicago is going to be not going to be an easy game and a pushover. Cincinnati at Detroit. Once again, I think Cincinnati handles business. I hope it doesn't come down to a late field goal, but I'm taking Cincinnati over Detroit.
You took the words right out of mine. As long as it doesn't come to a field goal, we're going Cincinnati.
We got Houston plus 9.5 at Indy, and this is going to be an interesting game. Indy coming off that bad loss against Baltimore at home. Houston's coming with a team that's just falling apart. I don't know how this game's at 9.5, but I'm taking Indy in it because it's just a home game.
I've been reading about this, and I guess people are really jumping on this David Mills bandwagon about being a good quarterback. So, surprisingly, I'm going to go Houston this week.
Yeah, I mean, and so you're taking Houston.
I'm going to take Houston, and David Mills coming back and
wow.
beating the Colts.
No, I mean it's great. Just a reminder too. Make sure you go in there. We've got the comment pinned. Make sure you get that last Gasp Piesano's question answered. There's about 15 minutes left of the show. Which tight end has the most yards and how much it is? That's simple as it is. Tell us what that is, and we'll call it a day, and we'll pick you and give you congratulations to Ronnie this week and Scott Stoner last week. So, come on down and get your $25 gift card, and we love it. So keep on going. Next thing you know, we've got the Rams at the Giants, plus 10.5. I think the Rams are playing well. Giants are gonna have a hard pill to swallow here at home, and I think the Rams come and take care of business. I think we both agree on that.
Yeah,
You got Kansas City at Washington. Washington's getting 7.5. Kansas City's coming off that shellacking by the Bills. I think they go in and handle their business. Washington's still trying to find their identity with Heineke at quarterback, but it's going to be interesting.
Well, Kansas City's got to turn their ship around. Yeah. They're too good of a team to keep on with this mediocre playing. Yeah. I think Kansas City is going to turn their ship around, and they're going to get a win. Well,
the thing is that you notice a lot of defense making Mahomes start beating them more with different types of passes before they let him do this and this and that and that. And now it seems like they've somewhat figured out what he's trying to do, and they need to run the ball. They need to establish a run game in that team to open up his passing lanes.
Yes, and Tyreek Hill's being covered. Yeah. They're double covering him and everything like that, trying to shut him down. If you shut down Tyreek Hill, if he plays this week, you got a good chance of winning. But I don't think they will.
Yeah. Minnesota at Carolina. This is a pick'em game. Carolina comes off a bad loss last week. That cost me one of my picks last week. I was 11-5, did well, but just not good enough when someone picks 14 of 16. And I think I'm going to go with Carolina just because they're at home. That's really the only reason here. I think both these teams are having to figure out who they want to do and how they're moving forward, and I think Carolina gets a W.
Everything I've seen says sit Cousins this week, so I'm going to sit Cousins and go with the Panthers.
Okay. LA Chargers at Baltimore. This is a great game. This is going to be a both these quarterbacks we talked about early in the show are both playing well. They're both putting up great fantasy numbers, and I believe that this will not be a low-scoring game, Brad.
I was going to say over under 40.
Oh, over 40. Both teams or just a total score?
Total score.
Oh, it'll be over 60.
Okay.
It'll be 40, 41, 35 or something like that. It's going to be they're going to score points in this game, and I'll be surprised if they don't.
So if you have one of these quarterbacks, you're starting them no matter who else you have on your team.
They're neither. You're fine. Just start them. They're going to get you 30 points. But I do like the Chargers going in and beating Baltimore. So I'm taking the Chargers.
I'm glad you're taking the Chargers because I'm going to go with the Ravens. Lamar's going to win this one.
There you go. Arizona at Cleveland, 5-0. I am picking Cleveland, and I don't like Baker Mayfield. I don't like what he's doing. I don't like his numbers, but I don't think Cleveland doesn't have room to lose this game.
I would pick Cleveland if they had their full slate of running backs, but since they don't, I can't go with them. I'm going to stay with Murray and go Cardinals.
My thing is the Cardinals have looked vulnerable the last couple of weeks. Their defense have kept them in the game. It's been a close game here and there, but I'm taking Cleveland all the way.
Yeah, but they've done what they had to do to win to be 5-0 right now.
Yeah, exactly. You got Las Vegas at Denver. I think Las Vegas is getting 2.5, but they are getting 2.5. I'm taking Las Vegas because I think they're going to right the ship this week with all the controversy, with losing everything, doing all that. I think they're going to be okay.
As much as I would hope Vegas would right the ship and do something, I don't think they're going to. I think Denver's going to pull out this victory.
Nice. We got Dallas at New England. I'm going to let you pick it because that's your team.
Do I even have to say
you have to say it? No, he's going with Dallas. Dallas's only loss was Tampa early in the season. They're 4-1.
Dallas is going to run the ball down the Patriots' throat.
Yeah, I mean, Ezekiel was a little banged up, but he is playing. So everybody pay attention to that. He is playing. You're going to be good there. And New England's been vulnerable. They're playing well, but they're just not. They're middle of the road team right now.
Yeah.
And I think Dallas is an upper 10.
Yes.
So you got to think about that. Seattle at Pittsburgh. I think Seattle loses at Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh is a tough place to play, and their fans are diehard whether they're winning or losing. And when they're winning, that's even a harder place to play.
Yeah, if Russell was playing this game, I would say it's a pick 'em. But without Russell, I think Ben's going to pull it out and win this.
We did get a Facebook Live question. What do you think Geno Smith is a viable quarterback for Seattle starting there after a second week, even though he's getting in the system and doing
I mean, no, I don't think he's going to be awful, but I don't think he's going to. In the fantasy points, you're going to see 13, 14 fantasy points out of him.
And that's the question: is that we keep saying this? Is that don't take shots on people that haven't proven themselves to be worthy of it yet?
Right.
And it's okay to swing and miss at a flex position or a kicker because you're talking about 3 to 5 points. When you're talking about a quarterback who's supposed to get you 20, 25 points a week, you can't swing and hopefully that Geno, who hasn't shown you anything, is going to do that. You take somebody who's on the bench, who's playing or on IR or who's on the waiver wire, who's playing the 30th ranked defense, and you put him in there to take a chance.
Well, unless you're in a 16-team league, there should be plenty of quarterbacks out there that you can play over Geno Smith this week.
Yep. So last game is Monday night's game. It's Buffalo at Tennessee. It's surprising that spread is so close at 3.5, but Vegas knows what they're doing. Tampa didn't cover on Thursday this week. Tampa didn't cover against the Eagles going into the Eagles, and they was 26-22, 28-22?
Yeah, they came back and got 22.
Yeah,
right?
and they were driving, and then they held up at the end. But still, do you like Buffalo or Tennessee in this?
I'm going to stay with Josh Allen and go Buffalo, even though I think Derrick Henry's going to have another big game in here too. But I don't think Derrick Henry by himself is going to be enough to get Titans past Buffalo.
Yeah, and so I believe the Buffalo Bills are on the roll train. Those fans are having a blast with that team right now. Tennessee is still a good team, but I think they're just not there yet. They've lost something. And I saw a stat the other day which is just mind blowing. And a lot of people out there who know running backs, who know some of the greatest ever, and they consider Eric Dickerson and some of the big names out there that are just from 20, 30 years ago that are the best running backs ever. Derrick Henry's last 40 games just set the NFL record for most rushing yards in a 40-game span, and he beat Eric Dickerson.
Yeah.
So think about that. In a 40-game span, when running the ball in this day and age is not as valued as it was then, that he has now set a 40-game record for most rushing yards. Let that sink in. And that's wild to think about.
He's rushing the ball 30 times a game.
Yeah.
I mean, he's crazy.
He's a workhorse.
He is the workhorse.
And it's good to see that. You want to see running backs like this get their credit, and he's deserved everything he's gotten, and he's earned it all.
Yeah, it just came across that Tyreek Hill is on the healthy list now, so he will be playing. Sort of like we said, if they are practicing during the week, more than likely they will play.
Yeah, and so one of the things that we like to do at this point in the show, it looks like Jacksonville still got the lead here late in the game. It looks to be 17-13. I think Jacksonville has the ball. Miami just threw an interception, so keep an eye on that. We're going into the fourth quarter. We like to talk about what are the positive things that societies are doing and some of these teams that are doing locally. And we found one the other day after watching that game on Thursday night was the Eagles Autism Challenge. Today, millions of people around the world are connected to autism. The Center of Disease Control estimates that 1 in 54 people under the age of 21 are living in the United States with autism spectrum, and making that the fastest growing developmental disorder. For the Eagles co-owner and that staff, they've made it a point to reach out and try to get the doctors and staff funding behind that. So they've dedicated to raising funds to innovative research and programs to help by providing necessary resources to doctors, scientists at leading institutions. And they're not the only one in the league. There's multiple that do autism, and there's multiple things around there. There's some local ones, charities around our area. But, it's great that, it's a known thing that people are trying to help and figure out for people, man. It's really good.
These teams, there's so many negative things that people like to talk about in the NFL, but all the positive things all these teams do, giving back to the community, giving back to organizations, it's a very positive league.
It really is. And so, I want there to be that thing that people go to look and say, hey, what's the positive things? That life's about being positive, about having that good feel, that good vibe. And, you're always going to have something, but if you can go to things and listen to us and talk about things that are good and happy and exciting, that's what I want you to get out of this show. If that's the only thing you get out of the show is come here, listen to us to be happy and talk about things, man. That's what I like about it.
Now, this show goes by so fast for me. An hour goes by like 10 minutes. I love doing this show. I love the interaction with the fans and with the sports people out there and talking to you about the games and stuff. I just appreciate everybody listening and watching.
Yeah, and so we want to say thanks to our sponsors again, everything they do for us, continued support. We also, to wrap the show up, the things that I'm looking forward to this week, Brad, is what are, as a fantasy owner, you're going to do to fill in the gaps of your teams, to fill in some of the spots, to see how that goes, to see the guys that step up next week when we go and review this week's numbers. Hey, how did these players do that we mentioned to fill in? Did they really step in a role that made a difference on a team? And did it help players out or not?
Well, last week we were talking about Joe Mixon, and he ended up playing, but P. Ryan did come through with a touchdown to start the game out. So we mentioned playing P. Ryan. He did have a touchdown at the beginning of the game, so he was a viable play.
Yeah, and he's not even active this week.
Right.
So it's week to week. It's minute to minute. Remember, send us your questions throughout the week. lastgasfantasy@gmail.com. We answer them directly on our phone. I get them straight to me. I know Brad and I talk about them on Thursdays when we meet up on Thursdays and Tuesdays. We talk about what are the questions that are being answered. Have you gotten this one? What do you think here? So, shoot it to us. Let us know what's going on. And we really want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we hope you have a great week and have a great fantasy day.
Yeah, win your fantasy league this week.
See you later.